What's the creepiest thing that's happened to you personally that made you question reality? I burnt about 10 filing cabinets full of papers for my high school friend's dad for less than minimum wage back in 2004. Literally millions of lines of words. Maybe even a million pages or close, just tossing them into a barrel burning. After a few hours, I victoriously tossed in the last folder. A little sprite of flame shoots out and a signed fortune cookie-looking piece of paper floats to the ground in front of me with the words only, "What burns does not return." I still don't know what the frick. The probability is just astronomical. I had 2 bananas, connected at the stem part. Broke them into 2, ate one, threw out the peel, came back for the other one, and it's gone. I live alone. Either I have a rotting banana somewhere in my apartment, or I've gone crazy. It's been weeks. Haven't seen or smelled the other banana. I'll accept that I just went bananas for that moment. Check your loft for monkeys. I was young, around 9, and my brother was 4. We were in our living room. He was in the middle of the room, and suddenly a fork that was on my couch just flew to him and landed in front of his feet. He laughed, and I pretty much pretended it never happened. Little telekinetic bro telling you to fork off. When I was 13, I had a dream that an intruder had broken into my house through an unlocked window next to my bed and killed my family. They left me alive. When I woke up, the window next to me was open, and I nearly pooped myself. I grabbed my machete and slowly creeped to the bathroom. Nobody was in the house, and it turns out that my father noticed it was really hot in my room, so he opened the window in the middle of the night. In 1984, I was 14. I was on a ferry heading to London. I was talking to some guys from India. They said they were going to kill Indira Gandhi. A few months later, she was assassinated. I think about that from time. Only mildly creepy, but definitely made me question reality. Me and a friend were sitting about in my room playing video games, etc., when out of nowhere there was this insanely loud pop. My ears were ringing, it was so loud. We both instantly looked at each other thinking one of us had caused it, but neither of us have a clue what happened. It sounded as though it came from thin air in the middle of the room. Oh, guys, I'm really not very good with horror stories. I'm gonna have to turn my light on, I think. Buckle up, boys. It's gonna be a scary ride. Had a dream where my boss hurt his back and he couldn't work that day. He came out with his shirt off and informed me that I would still be working that day. He was a slave driver, so that didn't surprise me. I wake up from the dream and head to work. A buddy picks me up and we drive to his house. I told my buddy about the dream, and we both laughed knowing my boss would probably do that. I knock on the door and no one comes. But I heard the garage door open, so I walked over to see if he was there. He opens the door with no shirt on, and the exact same conversation I had in my dream unfolds in front of me, word for word. And no one would have even believed me had I not told my buddy a moment earlier. I always remember this and do not have an explanation for it. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I remember waking up in the middle of the night and walking to the stairs. I remember closing my eyes for a second at the top of the stairs, and when I opened them, I would be at the bottom of the stairs. I would run upstairs and close my eyes and the same thing would happen again. It happened at least 4 to 5 times until my parents called me to go to bed because they could hear me running up the stairs. It's weird because I was wide awake and do not have a history with sleepwalking. I still think about it and wonder how that was possible. No way. Guys, when I was younger, did anyone else have this? I used to picture myself stood at the top of the stairs and then I would fall down really slowly in slow motion, but with no injuries, just topple down the stairs in slow motion. Did anyone else have that? That's just brought back a memory for me that I'd completely forgotten that used to happen to me. At least 6 times in my life, I've gone home. I know I've locked the door, but when I'm about to put my key in, the door opens like someone was expecting me, but no one's there. It's happened at my mum's house, my house, and other people's houses. I was helping my buddy move into his new house, and when we came back with more stuff, I had to pee, so I ran to the front door and it opened. When he came in, he said he locked it before we left. Don't know what it is, but maybe it's a superpower. Lazy telekinesis. Sleep paralysis. A few years ago, I was dreaming I was talking to a friend of mine. So far, nothing weird. But then, for some reason, I realised that I was in a dream and the person I was talking with technically wasn't my friend. Suddenly, their appearance turned to black and I felt them pushing me down and holding me down in my bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. At this point, my cat woke up and jumped on me as if to protect me. Then, the dark silhouette or whatever that thing was vanished and I woke up. I swear I had red marks on my shoulders where that thing was holding me down in my dream. Almost the exact same thing happened to me, except I was face down in my bed and nothing woke me up except time. Yikes. It's horrible. It feels like you're about to die or dragged into hell or something. Oh wow, sleep paralysis is the worst thing ever. I remember I've had it a couple of times, but the worst was when I was asleep obviously, but in my dream I was awake and I was looking at the hallway, my exact hallway that's in my house, and this strangely tall woman, like really tall, her head was like way above the door frame, but she was like leaning back, so her neck was bent back, so she was looking at the ceiling, and she was walking towards me with like her arms and legs waving around. Oh, it was absolutely terrifying. Guys, please share your sleep paralysis experiences. I really want to know. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't just a nightmare. I was trying to escape from her, like screaming, but I was awake, but my body wasn't moving. And I was trying to move my arms and legs to like get out of bed and run away, but I was frozen stiff and I just couldn't move. Oh, so horrible. My wife and I had a 2-hour drive back from St. Louis to our home, during which both of us lost time. We woke up 3 hours later, still an hour and a half away from home, only having used enough gas to go that half hour. And our GPS showed we'd been driving our normal route. We still have no freaking idea what happened, but we know we hadn't pulled over and that neither of us had any memory between taking an exit and seeing this one particular billboard for a restaurant we always pass. Still freaks me the frick out. Fricking auditory hallucinations. Frick those. Was driving down a rural, really dark road at night. I'm super sleep deprived. Drunk several of those 240mg caffeine Monster energy drinks. I didn't have the radio on, so it was pretty quiet. Then the whispering started. I'm confused. Don't understand what it is. Try to focus on it. Is it my stereo not all the way off? Then it started mumbling louder. Frick. This ain't good. Then I hear a very clear, but my GPS says continue for 12 miles. Haha, frick that. Nope, frick that. I turn the radio on really loud and continue home. Next physical, I mention it to the doc. Am I insane? Both sleep deprivation and caffeine have been known to induce auditory hallucinations individually. Combining both, it's perfectly normal to hear things. If it happens again, come back in. Thought I was going mental. That, or you narrowly avoided being ghost murdered. I had a terrible dream when I was 10, and I called my mum to come lay with me and we passed out, I guess. I woke up staring at the back of her head. Her hair looked exactly like Michael Myers. I said, Mum? She turned around and it was her, but holy poop, I'll never forget. Groovy, baby. One morning I woke up and my alarm went off at 6:30 as usual and got up and cooked breakfast. As soon as I sat down to eat, my alarm went off again and I woke up in bed. I dreamed that I woke up and went about my morning routine. That was easily the most disorientating thing I've ever experienced. I do this way more often than I'd like. Happens if I'm overly tired or stressed. I feel defeated every time I wake up a second time to realise I'm not dressed or ready to go to work at all and have to go through the whole process again. Oh yeah, I used to have that. Even worse though, I used to dream that I'd woken up, gone to work and come home. So then when I woke up, I actually had to do that whole day again because my entire dream was me just working, doing my job. It was actually torture. Felt like I'd done like a 24-hour shift. Woke up to my granddad stood by the door staring at me. Scared the poop out of me and there was a flash and he was gone. He's been dead about 7 or 8 years at that point. I asked my mum. She said, yeah, he often does that. He'd wake up my nan for work by knocking on the window. Mum, dead grandpa stared at me through my door today. Yeah, he does that. My friend was about to clean his gun and it was pointed directly at me when it went off. For a few seconds we stood there in shock, him thinking he killed me and me in a state of pure panic. Afterwards, we found the bullet embedded in a wall beside me. I will never let him live that poo down. I was sitting in my room just doing stuff on my computer when I suddenly heard a loud explosion. I swear the floor and windows were vibrating too. It scared the living poop out of me. The weird thing, however, my cat didn't really react to it. She kind of looked around but didn't seem scared. She normally is terrified of loud sounds. I asked my mum downstairs and she had not noticed anything either. It still confuses me to this day. Once woke up to the sound of heavy breathing and felt as if I was being watched. I couldn't move for a while either. Then I just blurted out my dog's name and kept calling for him. He didn't run over, and as soon as I could get myself to move, I went looking for him. Found him sitting in the kitchen doorway, just staring straight forward. I started calling him from right behind him and he wouldn't even turn around. Then I touched his back and he turned and glanced at me, but went right back to his trance. A year or so after that, I found out that the first thing was probably sleep paralysis. Not too sure about what was going on with the dog though. That's exactly what happened to my dog. 2 out of 3 of my siblings went to Dad's house and I stayed behind with my oldest brother. He was about to go to sleep when he sees the dog blankly staring at the corner of my sister's empty bunk bed. He called the dog several times, but he didn't answer. Super creepy, man. Oh yeah, stories with dogs, it really frightens me. Because apparently dogs can see ghosts, can't they? I'll preface this by saying I don't buy into the whole ghosts or spirits thing, but when I think back to this, it still freaks me out. I wasn't really tired, but I had work the next morning, so I laid down and closed my eyes. Not 2 seconds later, I heard someone whisper my name in my ear very clearly. I was so freaked out I couldn't dare open my eyes, because I didn't want to see anything. I rolled over and pulled the covers over my head, falling asleep eventually. I don't live with anyone else, and I'm out in the country. I've had this happen too, where I hear someone say or whisper my name when I'm totally alone. I even posted it here before, and someone said it's common to hear things like that before you're completely asleep, even when you think you're fully awake. One night, I was on Stephen Hawking's Wikipedia page, and I thought to myself, geez, he looks a lot worse. What if he died tonight? Next morning, I woke up to, Stephen Hawking dead. You killed the old boy. I spent 3 weeks in a coma, but didn't realise it. To me, it seemed like many years had passed, and I remember everything I did while in a coma. Woke up to realise that all those years weren't real. Been struggling with reality ever since. Moved into a house that's almost 100 years old. And after about a year of living there, one day I was sitting alone painting some figurines when Alexa blurts out, "Yes, Diana, it is Jimmy's favourite song," and then proceeds to play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Diana is the name of the lady who previously owned the house and has been dead for about 5 years. Jimmy was her cello-playing husband, who after Diana died, moved into a senior assisted living community. Oh, okay, no, that is terrifying. I hate anything to do with Alexas. Premonitive dreams. Mostly as a child, growing fewer and further between, until they stopped in my early 20s. The last I had was dreaming about the death of someone I cared for very dearly. A day later, they drowned. That one affected me so badly that I think something simply switched off in my brain, and I no longer have premonitive dreams. I do, however, trust my intuition a lot in various circumstances. When I was in my early 20s, I was fresh out of the closet and lived in the India Quarter. I started getting hang-up calls from someone, presumably a hookup. After a few months of sporadic calls, someone showed up outside my window at around 2 a.m. and started blasting a tape recording of me saying, "Hello? Hello?" Then drove off. A friend's mother and father passed away within a few months of each other when we were in our early 20s. While sitting in his living room, a mutual friend saw his dead mother go from the bedroom towards the bathroom, which was down the living room. She casually stared at him and walked through the bathroom door. He noped out of the apartment and sat on the staircase for a few hours, waiting for me and the homeowner friend to get back from work. It was in the afternoon, and that guy's a teetotaler and was not under any influence. We sometimes did feel a presence around us, but that was the only sighting. I'm slightly convinced I can see the future in my dreams. Ever since I was pretty young, maybe 6 or 7, in otherwise normal dreams where reality is pretty warped and the events really don't make sense, I would get these odd moments of pure reality where I would suddenly appear in a very normal environment that was typically completely unrelated to whatever I'd been dreaming about previously. It was like looking through a window. I could see everything through my eyes, but I couldn't physically control my movements. I was just along for the ride in my own head in the dream. When I was very young, I didn't really think this was that weird. I would occasionally just instinctively know things, like where my assigned seat would be for the next school year, because that's where I was sitting in my dream. I remember this happening very distinctly when I was in middle school. I walked into my biology classroom and sat at my seat, and the scratches in the black dab table exactly correlated to what I'd dreamed about a few months prior. It really freaked me out. These dreams started to taper off when I hit my teen years, and I haven't had one in at least 4 years or so. I've tried keeping a dream journal to see if I can verify my dreams against reality, but I always get bored of it and stop doing it in the end. The last one I remember having was me in an empty house getting on my hands and knees to look in the cabinet under the sink. I'm still waiting to see if this one will ever come true, or if I've just been crazy all these years. Dude, same thing happens to me. I always feel like I start doing the thing I see in my dream and start to feel confused like I've done it already. Had a crazy ex-girlfriend. She wasn't a bad girlfriend per se, just super clingy and possessive. She'd given me a small goat ornament, seeing that she was obsessed with goats. So after a while, I broke up with her because of the aforementioned crazy. I always kept the goat on my nightstand, right next to my phone. So the night I break up with her, she doesn't take it well. I go home and get ready for bed. Now, this ornament has been in literally the exact same spot for months. I go to bed, not a worry in the world, wake up in the AM, and the freaking ornament is gone. Perfect little dust outline from where it used to be. Immediately knew who it was. My only issue, she never had a key. I always lock doors and windows. I had a chain lock on my door. How in the frick? I'm a very light sleeper, always have been. Used to need earplugs and blindfold to sleep all night. Wasn't wearing either because it was a dark, silent night. Couldn't sleep well for months after that. Crazy girlfriends have been known to make a copy of the key. No explanation for that one. Literally none. I've been seeing loads of videos recently. They're like glitch in the Matrix videos. Has anyone else seen those? And this is like exactly what all these stories are relating back to me. Like they're all just glitches in the Matrix. Like no explanation for it, but it happens. I was on my way to pick my girlfriend up from work after leaving school. I get on the highway, everything's cool. Bright, pleasant day. I know my commute is only 30 minutes because of GPs. In my frame of reference, I was only driving for a solid 15 minutes until I get a phone call from my significant other. Where are you? You left school over an hour ago. I look around me and just get completely lost, which is weird because I've always been great with directions. Then I realise from G-Maps that I'm an hour and a half past my significant other's job. I have no idea where that extra hour went. Anytime I have deja vu, I get it for major events in my life, and it makes me wonder if everything we do is decided already. Every time I get deja vu, I always think it means something bad is going to happen, so I often try to break it by doing... I had it a few weeks ago in the shower, so to break it, I turned the shower to cold and stood under it for 10 seconds or so, as it's not something I'd usually do. I'm not really a supernatural person at all. I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. I can explain anything creepy that happens when I'm alone usually, or anything that just generally creepy happens. But as you could have guessed from that lead up and this question, there is one thing I still don't have an explanation for that I still think about. This happened around 5 years ago now, when I was still in high school. My sister and I were both walking up, and to get to school, we have to walk down a small dirt path that runs right next to a cemetery. Usually it's only us two using the path at that time in the morning. Sometimes you'll see someone walking a dog, but not often. We were walking down the path one morning when my sister said she thought she could hear someone following us. We checked behind us and no one was there. But if I listened, I could hear the clicking of high heels behind us as we walked. The sound followed us all the way off the path and stopped when we reached the main road. And there were loads of people. We then heard it again when it was just us two alone, walking in a back alley to get us to my sister's then boyfriend's house. Neither of us heard it for the rest of the day after we joined up with her boyfriend, but for the rest of the time at school, we both avoided using that path. We checked our bags to see if there was anything there that could make that sort of sound, but we both just had books in there. This isn't that creepy at all, truth be told, but it's definitely had me thinking about things since it happened. Most of the time it's just easier to ignore it for my own sanity though. Reminds me of a story I've been told about my uncle. He was walking home one night when he heard a clacking behind him. The first time he looked, it stopped and he saw nothing. The third time, he noticed the single high heel following him. Real or not, I enjoy telling the story. Deja vu is happening quite a lot to me. Some scene or dialogues I'm having, and I'm like, what the frick? I dreamed about it a while back, and now it's happening. At least twice a month. Moved into a new house, and was half asleep at 2 a.m. when I heard a heavy breathing noise coming from my closet. I got up and opened it but didn't see anything, so I went into my little sister's room since that was the adjoining wall, and she got up and followed me after I found nothing there. In my room outside my closet, we both stood there listening to the noise, like a man breathing in and out of his mouth until it finally stopped. I told her it was probably water coming off the roof and catching in the clogged gutters and rolling off the aluminium siding. She went to bed and I waited for another hour for a demon to appear and roast me. Sometimes when I'm playing with Dad, he'll throw a ball for me to catch. I lose sight of it and can't catch it, so I take off to look for it in the grass or in the bushes. I search and can't find it. But when I look back at Dad, the ball is still in his hand. I can't figure it out. It's the creepiest thing. Just tonight, like 2 hours ago, was having dinner with Mum at some restaurant. After she ordered dessert from the waiter, I told her, I've seen this scene before. And the waiter says the item's not available. Indeed, just seconds later, waiter comes back and apologises. Said item is not available. Can anybody explain deja vus? I don't really understand deja vus, to be honest. But apparently it's it's like we've already lived that moment in our lives. Like we've already been here before, so that's why it's like on repeat, if that makes sense. But who knows? We had a cat when I was like 8 that got pregnant. The night she went into labour, my mum made a nest for her in the bathroom. The bathroom was just behind my bedroom, and it took all my self-control not to visit her during the night. Instead, I stayed up, unable to sleep out of excitement, and read. At about midnight, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move by my doorway. I turned and looked directly at it, and immediately got goosebumps. Passing by my doorway was a hooded figure with what looked like a sickle. I was too afraid to move or call my mum, so after an hour or more, I fell asleep clutching my book. When I woke up in the morning, my ma told me the kittens were stillbirths. It's the strangest thing I ever saw. I was not tired at all. I wasn't on drugs or alcohol, being 8, lol, but I saw this figure that looked like Death pass my room. Very strange. In the Discworld novels, Death is very fond of cats. He may have come personally for the kittens to comfort them. That's like in Sims when the Grim Reaper comes, isn't it, and kills everyone. I think you might have saw the Grim Reaper. When I was about 6 years old, I wanted to go to my friend's house. My mum didn't want to let me, so I claimed I was running away to his house. He only lives 2 houses down, so it's not a big deal. I storm outside and it's kind of warm since it was summer. I was just in a t-shirt, shorts and socks. Realising I had no shoes, I decide to go back. I'd been walking on the sidewalk this whole time and was the only person around. Once I get to my house, I realise the door's locked. I knock on the doorbell to no avail. I turn around and see a man staring at me. The man's wearing a black long coat and red Converse shoes. The first thing that crossed my mind was that it was my dad, since I had a feeling he was. And my dad had the exact same red Converse. Thinking it was him, I start walking towards him, but when I was about 2 or 3 feet away, I got this really uneasy feeling and immediately ran to the door. He never once moved. My mum and older brother opened the door and I told them about the man I saw and how he looked like my dad. My mum tells me that Dad's outside in the backyard. They then go outside to look for him, but there was no trace of him. I was scared. Fast forward 10 years to when I turned 16. I wanted my parents to buy me a coat for my birthday. I just told them I wanted a long coat since I'd been playing Watch Dogs and liked how the main character had one. When my parents gave me my present, I immediately recognised the coat for the one the man had been wearing that one day. What if you are that man with the Converse but travelled back in time to see yourself? My neighbours are an old Greek couple in their 60s. Very sweet people. Always treats me and my brother like we're their grandkids. The older gentleman, Angelo, always called us over to watch soccer on the weekends because we supported the same team. Sadly, Angelo passed away a little over 6 months ago, and my brothers and I were absolutely devastated. Now here's the creepy, surreal part. I'm a student, so I work at a fast food restaurant to make some extra cash on the side. About a week after Angelo's death, a customer comes in, and when I see him, my jaw hit the floor. The man looked exactly like a short, broader version of Angelo. We chat a little while I'm taking his order, and I bring up soccer. He says he always watches it on the weekends and he supports the same team that I did. Even the way the man talked resembled Angelo's. He had a deep and soothing voice. I work only on Sundays, and the man shows up every Sunday exactly at 10 a.m. and orders the same thing. We discuss soccer, and I feel like we've built a genuine connection. He treats me like a grandson, and his face lights up whenever he sees me. Okay, guys, I want to hear your experiences. I mean, these have been freaky, but it's only fair to hear yours. So leave them in the comments and I'll read them. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos coming daily.